Is there anything else you want to add, guys, before we change gears into the last piece for today, which is this story which we wanted to cover, especially as we head into the Christmas break. This was in the Australian Financial Review, an article by Ewan Black. Nearly half of Australians are chronically sick. Almost 7 million Australians suffer from a long-term mental health condition, according to research that shows the prevalence of chronic health conditions has reached the highest level since records began. Based on responses from about 13,100 households, the National Health Survey by the Australian Bureau of Statistics found the share of Australians suffering from chronic mental or behavioural condition increased from 20.1% in 2017-18 to 26.1% last year. And this this is obviously super, super alarming. Mental health is, I think kind of, I wonder sometimes whether it's a case of better reporting and recording these days, but I definitely think there is a case for that where, back in the day, a lot of this stuff was going on, but we didn't have a label for it and we didn't know how to report it. But I also believe that at the same time, there are factors such as social media and lack of connection with each other because we're all on OnlyFans instead of actually at a bar hitting on a woman or a woman hitting on you, like the old-fashioned way, is causing loneliness and disconnection and all of that stuff. But I'd love to get your feedback on this because I think the downstream effects of this are pretty dire. We have people choosing not to continue into next year, which is very sad. What are your thoughts when you hear this?
Yeah, I agree with what you just said about social media, and I don't ever, I'm always very cautious to blame social media and OnlyFans and things like that, but I think the trend towards isolation is definitely increasing. I was reading an interesting article about, people in Cambodia don't actually have a word for depression. They've got a word, and I'm not going to try and pronounce it, but it literally means the water in my heart has fallen. So it is obvious that anxiety and depression, they're universal human emotions. I think what my opinion on it is that we've started to lose the remedy, and for me the remedy is tribe. Being surrounded with your family and friends, being surrounded by the people that love you to kind of pull you through those hard moments when the water in your heart has fallen, right? I think we're becoming a little bit detached from that, and I think that could be why the numbers are starting to increase.
Yeah, this is it's a thing now. You can Google. It's called the loneliness epidemic. Where 1 in 4 adult Americans, it's what the study's been based on, suffer from loneliness, and it's some alarming stats there that poor social connection, 29% increase of heart disease, 32% increase of stroke, 50% increase of developing dementia for older people, and more than 60% suffer from a premature death. With the advent of social media, the COVID pandemic, it's a mixture for not a great outcome.
Yeah, it's partly why I do my poker nights, which are becoming quite famous here on the Gold Coast, is because, and why the guys who come to those nights always want to come back, and we have a waiting list now of people trying to come and play a game of poker because it's just an opportunity to get the boys together and shoot the shit and be men, not toxic men like what you see here getting up to no good, but just boys being boys, having a laugh, giving each other shit. It's really so many guys. What's been interesting is the wives and the girlfriends talk to my wife, because my wife is very instrumental in organising it all, and say, oh my God, I love it when my husband or boyfriend comes over to your place, because he always comes home so charged and so positive. There's no topless waitresses and cocaine in the bedroom sort of stuff that the Gold Coast is kind of famous for. It's just good, Eric.
That's why I didn't go to the last one.
But yeah, there's such a need for that, and I think if you're listening to this, it is really, as you're here now, think about somebody you can invite over for a barbie or over for a beer. When was the last time you got invited to somebody's house for dinner these days?
Yeah.
Really think about that. Back in the day, that happened a lot. And people don't do a good job of that. We've invited lots of people over to our place and very few invitations come back. And so it's a lost social skill that is very sad to lose. But I think, you know, you just got to sort of be the party starter if you can be, and then you won't be lonely. And Eric?
You know, I think with anxiety and depression, you know, you can't physically see it.
Yeah.
You know, you're sitting there talking to someone that looks perfectly normal and them telling you, I'm depressed or I'm anxious, I can't leave the house, you know. And it's hard to see at times, you know, it's this intangible thing, you know. When you got a broken leg, you see the broken leg, you know, and you had your shoulder surgery a few weeks ago, you can see the pain that you're in, you know. And it's very hard to see that pain. And I think it's always been so taboo in the past, like it's, like they say now, it ain't weak to speak, you know, but I think a lot of people still believe it is weak to speak. And that's the unfortunate part to all this, especially males. I think females are a lot better than this, than
Have
males.
any of you guys suffered from anxiety or depression or both?
Anxiety for
Yeah,
sure.
both.
Anxiety?
Yeah.
Both, for sure.
Both?
Yeah.
You've had struggles with depression as well?
Yeah, and I think to Eric's point about not being able to see it, I think sometimes the last person to see it is the person themselves as well. I think sometimes you don't realise that you're having trouble sleeping because you're feeling a little bit anxious or depressed. I think there's a lot more people that are starting to get educated about their own feelings as well. So yeah, I think noticing it in yourself, I think, is one of also the most important things, because it creeps up. You know, it might start as just frustration or a couple of wake-ups in the middle of the night, and then life events occur and it really triggers and builds. And that's been my experiences. And it's like, oh, where did that come from? But then when you kind of go back and do the learnings and piece it all together, you realise that it was building over a period of time and you probably didn't recognise it. And then it turns into something that's a little bit more, you know, should I say, stereotypical definition of anxiety and depression. Because I think it's important to remember that anxiety and depression is healthy. It's in small dose. Look, depression's not healthy, but anxiety is a response that the body is creating to keep you safe. So in small doses, that stress can be positive. But when we you know, lose touch with how to deal with it, or lose touch with our tribes and isolate, I think that's when it can really start to get out of control.
What did you do to get through it? Like, do you have any anything that worked for you to deal with anxiety or depression?
Yeah, I mean, I think meditation has been great. Morning breath work and having a routine for me is really important. I think a lot of the cause of my anxiety was being in a responsive state. So when you're running a business, or you're being an entrepreneur, there's always things that are getting thrown at you. And if you're being reactive to those things, they can kind of take control of you. And so starting my morning with a morning routine, my breath work, my training, I'm being proactive in choosing how to start the day. And so when things come at me, I feel like I can see them a little bit more clearly. So
James, what about you? Any?
Yeah, shit tons of alcohol and Valium. No. Straight to the club.
Was that the triggering it, or was that the healing it?
Yeah, probably both. No, but yeah, exactly. Exercise is just getting up and getting active. And the minute you start moving, it's funny how the focus changes. Getting outside and to the gym and diet.
Yeah.
I think diet's huge.
Diet's huge, eh?
Diet's huge, yeah. So
get off the alcohol as well.
Totally.
Alcohol is absolutely a depressant on its own. Don't give it any more.
But it gives you massive anxiety as well. Alcohol just absolutely thumps your heart, so it's no good for you.
Diet's one of the last things that people will look at. But there's a really good book on the role of diet and anxiety and depression being related to other metabolic disorders like diabetes and things like that. It's called Brain Energy by Chris Palmer. Awesome book. But diet is super important, and a lot of people have intolerances as well that are actually affecting the gut, and the gut is linked with the brain, and it's all kind of linked.
Because I think exercise as well naturally leads to improved sleep. So if you cut out, improved diet and exercise, they all sort of work together. Like if you're having too much sugar, too much caffeine, not enough exercise, that's just like a nuclear combination for bad sleep, which then compounds to you wanting more of that bad stuff to compensate for what you're doing. Eric, have you ever suffered with it? Or
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, anxiety.
Anxiety. How did it manifest for you?
Just as a as a late teenager, really, I think. But mine's more situational anxiety. So mine's not anxiety from, day-to-day stresses of work and entrepreneurship. To be honest with you, I think that actually helps me in a way. Mine's more situational. So for instance, if I'm stuck in traffic and it's pissing down rain and I can't get out, I start to panic, I start to go like, so for me, it's about control. So I'm a fairly controlling person. I like to be in control at all times. Hence, I don't drink alcohol. I don't do drugs. I don't smoke. I don't do any of that stuff for many, many, many years, because I sense that, I'm not in control. When you're intoxicated, someone's not in control. And it's funny because I talk to friends or family and they say, that's why I actually drink, because I actually forget about everything else, and it kind of relaxes me. Whereas it doesn't relax me, but it's being okay with saying it, and it's being okay with communicating it. The big thing that helps me is communication. My wife's very supportive, and I know that a lot of people don't have partners that are supportive. And if that's not the case, then you got to find someone that you can entrust, whether that's a good friend, whether it's, a social worker or a psychologist. A lot of people see these things as taboo, but if you have no one to go to and you're in your head, you need to get it out. So for me, yes, exercise, yes, food, yes, avoiding alcohol, but at the same time, communication for me is number one. I always say it to my kids. I say it to my wife. I say it to my business partners. Communication is everything. Don't hold back. And I think what happens is we don't speak up enough.
What about you, Adam? You've had your dalliance with anxiety over the period.
Yes, serious anxiety. It hit me for the first time in Los Angeles, and it was prolonged. What you talked about, Mark, prolonged demands on my attention, because I was running 3 businesses. I was in a foreign country. I didn't have my network of mates, and I thought I was fine. I thought I was fine until I felt like I was having a heart attack out of the blue one day, and then the ambulance came because we were going to get a coffee underneath my animation company on Hollywood Boulevard, and I thought I was having a heart attack. And my mouth went dry, my heart rate spiked, and I said, call an ambulance, and I was lying down on the garage floor, and then the fireys came in the truck, took me to the hospital, and I got diagnosed with acute anxiety, and it persisted for months and months afterwards. And unlike you, it would come out of the clear blue sky. I remember when I got back to Australia, I was walking down the beach thinking, okay, I'm doing my exercise, beautiful Gold Coast morning, 7 a.m, and I would look up and see my apartment building down the beach, and it would be 500 meters away, and this random thought would pop in my head: what if I don't make it? What if I can't get there? And I'd have a full-blown panic attack on the beach at 7 o'clock in the morning. And your thing about not being able to see it, people are walking by with their dogs, and I am freaking out. Like, I'm thinking, this is serious. And then the next thing, the brain would go, oh, the sun's hot. Did I drink enough water before I left home? I might dehydrate. How am I going to get back to the house? And I actually had it at Ferry Road Markets here. I went down to Ferry Road Markets to get a coffee one day. I'm walking along, everything's fine, and then this illogical thought says, nobody knows I'm here. What if something happens? This is the end of me. And I went into a full panic attack, like stumbling, and went into the optometry store and said, I need help, can I lie down at the back of your... And they put me out the back where the optometry thing is and laid me on the floor and called the ambos. And it persisted until I deleveraged my life, cut out certain things, coffee and different things, and just got some counselling. But and it took months to go, and thank God I don't have it now, but I have dealt with it. But I do want to say, for anybody listening, if it is you and you are having either anxiety or particularly depression, I think Eric's words of wisdom are very, very founded, because your friends and family want you here. A very dear friend of mine, I saw him in Sydney 3 years ago. We had breakfast together at Barangaroo with his wife, and then a week later I was in Perth giving a talk, got back in the taxi, and he jumped off a building, and you got to talk about it, you know. So make sure you make it through Christmas, you know. Be social, guys, you know.
I think we're the most connected we've ever been with these devices, and I say it all the time, yet we're the most disconnected we've ever been, all at the same time. And my wife is on to me all the time, you know, get off your phone, you're on your phone, you know, and a lot of it's work-based, but at times there I am with my family, right, hanging out, and I'm in a rabbit hole. And at times I get upset. Leave me alone, you know, don't worry about it. But because I know she's right, you know, so we have to be careful. I remember, like Adam was saying, as a kid, tight-knit European family, the door was always open. We'd have people drop in all the time, aunts, uncles, cousins, bring food, like house is a mess, you look like shit, no one cares. Today,
No one drops in.
no one drops in.
Yeah.
You need specific time, 6:30 on Thursday night. You can come for dinner, come for a coffee, and the house needs to be clean.
People are outraged
Right.
if someone drops in these days.
Yeah. Now.
What are you, some kind of psycho?
Yeah, you know, how dare you? I look like shit. My house isn't clean. You can't come in. And I think a lot of it has to do with these devices and social media, because you never knew what someone else's house looked like.
Yeah.
You didn't know how good they could look. Now, to me, I see it and I say it. It's a fugazi. You know, it's this kind of fake world that we're living in. And
Vamoose, what was Andrew Tate saying, right?
exactly, yeah. So, but I think what we need to do is, like Adam said, Adam's very good at organizing, and Cass is amazing. And even Jen and I, we love it, but we need to get better, you know, because we want to bring those roots back in, especially for our kids, and know that, you know, people can drop in. We have good friends that live 2 doors down, and their kids are the same age, and we have open door policy. They run in, they come in, they go into our fridge, our kids go into their fridge, they're dropping in, I need to borrow this, you got sugar, and I love that. And we're actually going to start building a house this year. And we're going to move from the area that we are in. And in the back of my mind, subconsciously, I'm like, it's not going to be the same. You know, you're going to have
Community
this
is
big,
so
beautiful house, yes, but you're not going to have, you know, hopefully we'll have some connection with neighbors, but it's going to be hard to have the same connection we have with our neighbors now, because we're literally the kids are best friends, and they're some of our best friends as well, you know. So I think we have to keep that in mind, especially during Christmas. This season, it's as happy as it is, it's very sad for a lot of people. And I think what we need to do is remember, you know, who are those people in our lives that might be, and just reach out to them, you know. And don't send them a text, you know. Give them a phone call, give them a FaceTime. You know, I loved Adam when I first met him. We created a friendship, you know. He's the only guy that would ever video call or, you know, send a video message with a happy birthday. No one has ever done that before, you know.
Cass and I always look at our circle of friends at this time of year and say, who do we know that might be on their own this Christmas? And just send them a text saying, we're thinking of you. If you're alone at Christmas, there's a seat at our table, you know? Because I don't think anyone should be alone at Christmas. It's, you know, just think about those people in your life that you love, and make sure, don't assume that they know you love them, you know, and that they matter, because don't take people for granted, you know? It's a great topic, guys, and I appreciate your honesty on it. But if you're sitting there and you're lonely this Christmas, pick up the phone, make contact with a human being, because we need each other.
And I would just say, don't wait till we're feeling lonely to pick up the phone. Let's make it a habit to pick up the phone more and talk to our mates and drop in on our mates, because the best remedy for these kind of things is to prevent it from happening.
I think back, you know, talking about OnlyFans and having, you know, some guy in Nigeria is the one that's messaging that person back, but that person thinks it's that girl. You know what? Let that person think it's that girl. Yeah. Because if it's making them happy and they don't know any other way, it's probably better than not having someone to talk to be honest.
Yeah.
You know?
Hey there. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Unemployable. If you want to watch another clip, click here. Or if you want to see the full episode, click here. Bye for now.